Pope Leo XIV and the Untold Prophecies. What if I told you there might have been a pope whose very name was erased from history? Not because he failed, but because what he left behind was simply too dangerous to be remembered. This is the story of Pope Leo XIV, and the prophecies that the world was never meant to hear. Some historians whisper about documents, fragments that somehow slipped through the cracks of time. They suggest that Leo XIV, this mysterious pope whose name doesn't even officially exist, left behind a collection of prophecies. Prophecies not just about the church, but about the collapse of empires and the wars that would erupt over faith itself. But here's the thing, these prophecies didn't survive in any official archive. They weren't passed down like sacred texts. They were buried, hidden, forgotten, just like Leo XIV. Among the fragments that reportedly escaped total destruction, there are 3 prophecies that continue to haunt those who've come across them. And whether you believe in them or not, the way they seem to echo what's happening in our world today is unsettling. The first prophecy reads, "There will come an age when technology shall surpass faith, and mankind shall kneel before machines instead of God." Let's just stop there. Think about that for a second. Some believe this is a chilling prediction of the rise of artificial intelligence, a future where humanity becomes so consumed by technology that we start to worship it. Not in the traditional sense, but in the way we devote our time, our energy, even our purpose, to machines, to systems, to algorithms. Some thinkers argue we're already living in this prophecy. We look to technology for answers, for validation, for comfort. And the question is, have we already begun to replace faith with something artificial? But that was just the beginning. The second prophecy says, "When the light passes through iron gates in the east, blood will spill, and the church shall fracture once more." It's cryptic. It's poetic. And it's terrifying. Many who've studied this line believe it's pointing to the east, maybe Asia, where significant religious tensions are rising even now. Others think the iron gates might symbolize military power, technological hubs, or even ancient cities that have now become centers of modern conflict. The light passing through could mean influence, or maybe even ideological invasion. And the warning? Blood will spill. The church, according to this prophecy, may face another great divide. Not the Protestant Reformation, but something else, a new fracture that could permanently alter the landscape of global faith. And then, there's the third prophecy. There shall be a pope in white, but his heart will be darkened by power. He will lead millions into an era of confusion. This is the line that makes people uncomfortable. Because it raises a dangerous question: is this a prophecy about a future pope? Or could it even refer to someone already in power? The Pope in white is an obvious image, it's the iconic white robes of the papacy. But the darkened heart? The corruption? The deception? That's what shakes people. Some wonder if this is about a leader who, despite appearing righteous, will guide the faithful into moral and spiritual chaos. It's not necessarily about evil, it's about confusion. About the blurring of right and wrong, truth and lies, sacred and profane. And this is where the mystery deepens. These prophecies, if they ever existed, were never publicly acknowledged by the Vatican. They don't appear in any open archives. They're not in catechisms or papal records. They were allegedly found in the margins of books, scribbled on the backs of decrees, buried in the Vatican's secret archives, the place where the most sensitive church documents are stored far from public view. Researchers who tried to chase these stories, they either abandoned their work without explanation, lost their Vatican access, or simply stopped talking about it. Disappeared from the conversation. Silence from the top. Silence from the records. Silence from history. Some say this is proof that the Vatican buried the memory of Pope Leo XIV intentionally, to protect the stability of the Church. After all, what would happen if a pope left behind predictions that could threaten the trust and unity of billions of believers? Maybe it was easier to erase him, to strip him from the official lineage, and lock his words away where no one would find them. Others push back even harder. They argue that Leo XIV never existed at all. That this whole story is a fabrication. A cover. A distraction to conceal something else, something even more dangerous. But here's the part that gets people really thinking. If these prophecies were real, If Pope Leo XIV saw this coming, are we now living in the very future he tried to warn us about? Look around. Technology is replacing faith in everyday life. Conflicts are intensifying in places once thought stable. Even within religious institutions, fractures are becoming more visible. Maybe these aren't just coincidences. Maybe the words of a forgotten pope are still echoing through time. Maybe we're not supposed to hear them. Maybe that's why they were buried. And yet, here we are, talking about them. But this story doesn't stop at hidden prophecies. It goes even deeper, into territory that some find too uncomfortable to explore. Because according to the whispers that refused to die, the real secret wasn't just what Leo XIV wrote. It was what happened to him after death. Some of the most persistent rumors from within the Vatican suggest something extraordinary, something the Church has never officially confirmed, but also never convincingly denied. They say the body of Pope Leo XIV, this pope who supposedly never existed, was discovered perfectly preserved. Not just well kept. Not just embalmed. But truly untouched by time. Imagine that. A body that refused to decay. A body that remained as if frozen in the moment of death, while centuries quietly slipped by. And if you're thinking this sounds impossible, remember, it wouldn't be the first time. The Catholic Church has long acknowledged incorrupt bodies of saints. Saint Bernadette Soubirous is a famous example. Her body has baffled scientists for more than a century. But here's where Leo XIV's story takes a sharp turn. Unlike Bernadette, whose incorrupt body was publicly displayed, honored, and meticulously studied, Leo XIV's body was reportedly hidden. Locked away. Sealed behind doors that were never meant to be opened again. Why? Why would the Church carefully preserve one incorrupt body while actively concealing another? Some stories suggest that the Vatican secretly assembled a team of experts to examine his body. Not just priests, but scientists, chemists, and medical professionals. They wanted answers. They took samples. They ran tests. They wrote detailed reports. But all of it, every note, every file, every scrap of evidence, was burned. Gone. No official record remains. Just whispers. Just shadows. Why destroy everything? What did they find that was so dangerous, so destabilizing, that even the slightest trace had to be erased? Some theorists believe that Pope Leo XIV discovered something the Church could never allow to be known. Maybe he had unlocked a forbidden secret, a way to defy death itself. Maybe his incorrupt body wasn't a miracle to be celebrated, but a warning to be buried. And the questions keep stacking up. Was the Vatican afraid of what they found? Or did they already know? Was this why his name was erased from the papal records, to hide not just the man, but the impossible reality he embodied? The implications are staggering. If Leo XIV truly defied death, if his body resisted decay in ways no one could explain, what would that mean for the Church's control over the narrative of life and afterlife? How do you maintain power over salvation when someone outside the prescribed system demonstrates that there might be another path? The safest answer? Erase him. Erase the records. Erase the name. Turn his story into a ghost. But it doesn't end there. There are scattered accounts of additional prophecies linked to Leo XIV, ones even more unsettling than the first three. Some of these alleged texts hint at the merging of spiritual and artificial realms. They speak of an era when humanity's desire to conquer death would push us to build synthetic souls. Digital copies. Artificial beings with human consciousness. Sound familiar? We are already racing toward that future, brain-machine interfaces, consciousness uploading, AI capable of mimicking human thought. Did Leo XIV see this coming? If so, it's no wonder the Vatican might have wanted his warnings buried. A future where humanity attempts to outgrow not just faith, but mortality itself. And still, despite all the stories, all the theories, the Vatican remains silent. Not a denial. Not a confirmation. Just silence. Which leads us to a bigger question. When an institution chooses silence over explanation, what is it really protecting? Is it guarding truth? Or is it hiding fear? And maybe the most unsettling thought of all, what if the Vatican's silence isn't about suppression at all? What if it's about mercy? What if Leo XIV's story, his incorrupt body, his prophecies, his erasure, wasn't buried to deceive the world, but to protect it? Maybe there are truths so disruptive, so destabilizing, that sharing them would have broken more than just the church. Maybe they would have broken us. We always assume that forbidden knowledge is being hidden from us. But what if sometimes it's being hidden for us? What if the cost of knowing is simply too high? And what if the Vatican, this ancient institution with centuries of secrets, has learned that some answers are better left untouched? That's the uncomfortable edge where this story sits. Balancing between conspiracy and protection, between deception and caution. Was Pope Leo XIV erased because he was dangerous? Or because he was trying to save us from something we weren't ready to face? The Vatican isn't telling us. Maybe they never will. But this story doesn't stop with silence. It pushes into even darker corners, into the realm of the forbidden. Because the story of Pope Leo XIV isn't just about what was erased. It's about what was never meant to be discovered in the first place. There are whispers, quiet, persistent, of forbidden miracles. Accounts from deep within the Vatican suggest that Leo XIV's incorrupt body wasn't the only thing hidden. There are rumors of other phenomena connected to him, things that defied explanation, that didn't fit into the Church's existing framework of sainthood or divine intervention. Some say his body displayed signs of regeneration, that even years after death, there were faint biological activities, impossible by any scientific measure. Others speak of a strange warmth that radiated from his tomb, as if life refused to fully let go. None of these reports were ever confirmed. And yet, no one can quite dismiss them either. Because the few who reportedly witnessed these events, Vatican scholars, underground archivists, either vanished from public life or retreated into silence. Their papers were destroyed. Their careers quietly dissolved. Their stories dissolved into rumor. It's as if the closer people got to uncovering the truth, the faster that truth was pulled out of reach. Why? Was the Vatican afraid that these miracles, if they became known, would destabilize the Church's narrative? Or was it something more terrifying? Maybe these miracles weren't signs of divine favor. Maybe they were signs of something the Church was not prepared to understand. Or worse, something the Church was never supposed to control. Some fringe theologians even suggest that Leo XIV may have crossed into forbidden spiritual territory. That he discovered a pathway to life beyond life, one that bypassed traditional doctrine, a loophole in the natural order. If that's true, it would explain why his legacy had to be buried so thoroughly. It would mean he represented not just a political threat, but a theological one. Because what does it mean if someone proves that life and death aren't opposites? What does it mean if the very structure of the afterlife can be hacked? And then there are the prophecies, the ones few people talk about. The rare, scattered writings suggest that Leo XIV left behind messages written in obscure dialects, hidden in the margins of ancient scrolls, and sometimes scribbled onto the backs of discarded church decrees. These messages reportedly warned of a future plagued by false miracles, by religious leaders who would twist faith for power, and by technologies that would mimic divine acts. One line, quietly passed among those who still study the lost fragments, has never been officially verified but continues to echo in conspiracy circles. Beware the sun that rises twice, for it will not bring warmth, but fire. What does that mean? Some interpret it as a warning of artificial suns, nuclear detonations or man-made disasters that could resemble the power of the sun but bring only destruction. Others think it refers to the rise of spiritual deception, false lights, fake leaders, movements that appear to offer salvation but instead lead humanity into deeper confusion. Either way, it points to something ominous. Something approaching. And yet, through all of this, the Vatican has never officially responded. They've never confirmed the existence of these writings. They've never publicly addressed the story of Pope Leo XIV. They've simply chosen silence. What does that tell us? If the prophecies were fake, it would be easy to dismiss them. If the miracles were misunderstood, it would be easy to clarify them. But they don't. They stay silent. And silence, especially from institutions that deal in truth and faith, often speaks volumes. It makes you wonder. Are some stories erased because they're dangerous? Or because they're too true? What if the story of Pope Leo XIV isn't just a forgotten chapter? What if it's a missing piece? A key to understanding the strange moment in history we're living in right now, a time when faith is crumbling, technology is rising, and ancient institutions are struggling to keep their power intact. If someone once proved that life could defy death, if someone once warned us about the collapse of nations, the rise of false leaders, and the dangers of worshipping machines, would we even be allowed to remember them? Would their story survive? Or would it be burned, erased, buried, just like the files, just like the name Leo XIV, until all that's left is a whisper? Maybe that's all that remains now. A whisper. A faint outline of a story we're not supposed to know. But that doesn't mean we should stop asking. It doesn't mean we should stop searching. Some stories hide in plain sight. Some answers wait in the margins. And some truths only reveal themselves to those who are willing to dig past the surface. So, what do you think? Was Pope Leo XIV a forgotten pope? Or the carefully buried truth of our time? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And remember, some stories only reveal themselves to those who refuse to stop searching.